What were your thoughts?
Well, SFA is actually underneath University of Texas. They're affiliated together. And believe it or not, they called me last year, but I wasn't able to go. It was last year was the first year they ever did this event. I had another obligation, so I couldn't accept. Was invited back this year. And man, there's just such a hunger on the college campus. It's not every day that you see 500 students make commitments to Christ, especially in a setting like this, because, here we are, we're on campus and we're in one of the buildings on campus. And the way it's set up is there is these long rows with just one row in the middle. And so I'm just one of these guys that believe if you mean it, you mention it. And I mean, we had no music. I mean, we had a band, but I'm talking about during the invitation time when I asked people to make a public decision for Christ. It's not an easy thing to do to stand up in front of your peers and other people that you go to college with. And like I say, there was over 500 decisions for Christ. I mean, it seemed like you just you couldn't stop these kids from saying yes to Christ. I made a comment about it. It's only the second time in the history of our ministry, and I've been in full-time evangelism a little over 20 years, where we had so many people that wanted to accept Christ as Savior. We had to ask people to leave who weren't making a decision. There wasn't a room large enough to walk through that follow-up process with them. And so it was basically, if you're not wanting to give your life to Christ, will you just gather your things and quietly leave? And I've never seen that except one other time in Houston, Texas, about 5 years ago.
What do you think is driving this, Jay? And I asked that in terms of where this movement at Abilene Christian, I'm not Abilene Christian, but Stephen F. Austin, where this movement at Stephen F. Austin, that's happening as, like I said at the intro there, other college campuses are seeing something similar. I was writing today about the Unite Us movement at Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh, or Pittsburgh University. I forgot what Pitt calls themselves, but they had hundreds of salvations last night, and this is happening in universities across America. What do you think is driving this outpouring and this I don't know, this coming to Christ of so many college students?
Well, I don't know that I have a definitive answer, but I know that there are several factors involved. I think, first of all, you have to look in the context of people who are in college. A lot of these people, they've left home for the first time. They're in a new environment. They're isolated away from what it was like in high school, where you knew everybody and you grew up there and you had mom and dad looking over your shoulder and different forms of accountability. And so I think part of it is being in that transitionary time where some of the certainties of life seem to be gone. I think another factor that plays into it is when a person goes off to college, not only are they changing geographical locations in many places, in many cases, but on top of that, they're encountering new temptations. And then I think another part of that is the fact, of course, the statistics tell us that if a person doesn't come to Christ by the age of like 21, the chances of them ever coming to know Christ diminish greatly. But I think there's just a real hunger among young people. I think some of the uncertainty that's going on in the culture and in the country, I think students are looking for something that's real. I think a lot of students have experimented with some of the vices that this life offers and found those vices to be very empty. Kind of reminds me of the rich young ruler. He built the barns and built greater and greater and greater, and yet there was still a lack of satisfaction. And I think that plays a huge role into it.